textile strain effect on this material. Okay. I want to acknowledge first the people who contributed to this work. They are from Lincoln, from Temple University, from Fremont College, Aragon National Lab, and Los Alamos Lab. And since this is a workshop for ferroelectric material, of course, the material I will talk about hexagonal ferrite has to be a ferroelectric material. But at the same time, I also want to point out it's also magnetic material. And you can see it's got iron in it. So that makes this material a multiferroid material. It's also been proposed that it's actually it's also magnetoelectric. This still needs to be demonstrated by experiment. Many of you, I guess, may or may not be familiar with this material. So I'll start by a really brief introduction about the system itself and also why we call it, why the system itself is multiferroid. So, if you look at the chemical formula, Re3O4, this is actually a family of material hexagonal rare earth ferrite. And so far I have seen this group of rare earth elements that can be in this material from dysprosium to lutetium, and plus scandium and yttrium. In this talk I'll be focused on the lutetium compound, and lutetium is kind of special in here because it itself is not magnetic. And if you are familiar with ferrite, especially h-LuFeO3 ferrite, you probably will realize that if you have rare earths and ferrite, you probably should think about something called orthoferrite, right? So orthoferrite indeed belongs to the orthorhombic structure phase. That is actually the stable phase. But you can also crystallize this chemical formula in hexagonal structure. And there are many ways to do that. The specific way for us to do is to use the deep film course. I'll come back to that. And let's just take one more look at the hexagonal structure. This is kind of a layered structure material. And you can see that it's quite interesting. The rare earth actually has its own layer. And of course, iron and oxygen will share one layer. And another quite special thing in this material is the local environment of iron. Instead of a 6-coordinate, this is a 5-coordinate system. And you will see that this is actually playing a quite an important role in many properties in here. So we know this material is ferroelectric, and we also call it improper ferroelectric. And the reason is the following. So if you look at the structure itself, you can see it's kind of distorted. So all the rare earths are actually not in the same plane. And that kind of distortion can be decomposed into several one of them. And this is the most important. We call this so-called K3 distortion. And so to look at the local distortion, basically you have this iron O5 rotation. This often go this way, this often go this way. This will go down, this will go up. So it's really a rotation of local environment. At the same time, the rare earths, they are also changes. So the middle one goes down and all the other ones goes up. So that's kind of like buckling. So this distortion itself is not polar, but it actually can induce the displacement of atoms along the c-axis. So this is polar. That generates part charge imbalance and polarization. So the driving force is this distortion, so that's why we say it's improper ferroelectric material. And I also mentioned that this is also ferromagnetic material. So in this figure, you can see I added all the spins on iron in here. And basically, all the spins are in the AB plane. So they form structure like this. We call it 120-degree order. At the same time, you can see that these spins are not totally in plane. They're canted a little bit. So that can give you photomagnetization. So this is where the ferromagnetism comes from. And since it's a very small moment, we call that weak ferromagnetism. just to, a quick summary of the property of hexagonal ferrite, especially lutetium ferrite. Its ferroelectric and ferromagnetic transition temperatures for electricity is pretty high, it's like 1000 K. For ferromagnetism, it's much lower. And polarization is also significant for ferroelectricity, but not as big for weak ferromagnetism. The coupling is predicted, but still we need to realize that. So for us, for me at least, we've been interested in this material for a very, very long time. So of course we started with realizing this hexagonal phase, right? So as I said, we use the thin film deposition method. So pulse laser deposition. So first we show that you can get hexagonal symmetry, and at the same time you really can get atomic arrangement that comes from hexagonal symmetry, and also the same kind of distortion that you need for ferroelectricity. So after that, as we said, one important thing in this material is improper ferroelectricity, or the driving force of the distortion. And that distortion turns out actually also changes the unit cell size. So if you change the unit cell size, so to easily characterize it using the X-ray diffraction or electron diffraction. So we did that and found that the transition temperature is really high. So this, as the structure phase transition is about 1000 K. And also verified that the material is indeed switchable, and you can write pattern on that. So that all has to do with improper ferroelectricity. And later on, we got interested in the electronic structure of this material, especially the electronic structure on the iron side. So as I said, the iron local environment is this 5-coordinate trigonal bipyramid. So the immediate consequence of this is huge anisotropy here. So the c-axis and AB plan is very, very different. So we measured X-ray absorption spectroscopy, and it turns out this structural asymmetry is manifested here as a huge dichroism, linear dichroism in the spectroscopy. So this is iron L3 edge, L edge, basically the exciting electron from core 2D level to the valence 3D level. And we also see the same or similar dichroism, huge dichroism in the oxygen K edge. So we excite from oxygen 1s to 2p, and also two different directions of X-ray polarization, you get very, very different spectroscopy. And it turns out those studies are very useful. For example, this huge anisotropy on the iron L edge, it's almost like a signature of this local environment, or even a signature of the hexagonal structure. Because if you compare that with the orthorhombic lutetium ferrite, for example, and you get really very, very large contrast. So we use that to look at one of the heated films, and you can actually see the structural phase separation in the films. So you can distinguish between hexagonal phase and orthorhombic phase. And because of this huge contrast, and you can flip the contrast just by changing the excitation energy and study the boundaries. So, and it's also interesting that there's another work almost at the same time published. They actually make use of this phase separation between hexagonal phase and the orthorhombic phase, basically to combine the high magnetic transition temperature of orthorhombic phase, which is also ferrite, and high ferroelectric transition temperature of the hexagonal phase. Basically, try to make a room temperature multiferroic material. Okay, so the electronic structure also gives us some hint in the origin of single iron anisotropy. This is also extremely important in terms of weak ferromagnetism. We know that weak ferromagnetism comes from the canting of the iron moment, but at the same time, for iron, moment, implant moment, also has to go just along a certain direction. If it turns 90 degrees, the weak moment will be gone. So this single ion anisotropy is quite important. But at the same time, iron is 3+ and it's 3d5, so ideally it doesn't have angular momentum, so it shouldn't have big anisotropy. But the fact is, we can measure, remember, I'm going to talk about that excitation from oxygen 1s to oxygen 2p. That means 2p is not totally filled. 2p is hybridized with oxygen, with iron. Or you can say the other way, iron is hybridized with oxygen 2p. So that makes iron is actually not really 3d5. And hybridization is different along different direction, of course, according to the anisotropy of the structure. So that actually gives us a single ion anisotropy. So, so that's all the previous work. What I want to talk about here today is another question, kind of long-standing question, long-standing problem for this material. So what is really the strain effect? So if you apply a strain, what will happen? Why this is a long-standing problem? Because it's really difficult to attack the problem. We know, as I said, hexagonal phase is unstable in bulk. So you really have to deal with thin film. And although I said we can grow thin film, very nice thin film, but all the substrate we have, they actually do not have the same structure as the hexagonal ferrite. So you really don't have very well-defined interface. And finally, there's this discussion of ferrite is very difficult to strain just by itself. The proposition was iron's got 3d5 configuration, so it's almost like a sphere. So that makes it really difficult to squeeze or expand. Okay, so so that's all this difficulty that makes this study very difficult until we came up with this idea of restrained thermal expansion. Kind of general idea. If you have a thin film and a substrate, and you shoot a photon on it, and if the film can absorb the photon and substrate is transparent, doesn't absorb, so the film can be heated, right? But the film cannot expand along the independent direction because the substrate is basically locked that dimension, so it can only go along one direction. So that's kind of like compressive strain, right? So so all you have to do is to do this and do a control experiment, which is a standard temperature dependence of properties. We call this Isobaric thermal expansion, and look at them together, right? So there are two different processes, thermal processes. One is restrained thermal expansion, one is isobaric thermal expansion, and you compare them and you get isothermal compressive strain effect. So that's just the idea. If you can create strain using a photon pulse, then the question is how to measure. Right? Photon pulse is very short, so it's very difficult to measure the effects using normal means. Unfortunately, we have untimed result X-ray diffraction. So you use photon pulse to generate the strain, and you can actually use X-ray pulse as a probe to detect the structure or the strain. So you can tell at what time how much the strain that you have. And this is basically experimental setup, and you can have study different diffraction peaks, and just in order to characterize the structure. And of course, now we know how to generate strain, how to characterize strain. Next question is how to characterize the effect of the strain, right? So what's really the most important thing to study, at least as a first step. So I just want to remind you, talk about this, but this is very important. As we said, this distortion, this K3 distortion, rotation of local environment and buckling of the rare earth layer, that looks like it's origin of everything, right? For example, you can see this is a broken inversion symmetry that gives you the ferroelectricity, and this rotation gives you kinetic magnetic moment that gives you weak ferromagnetism. So really, we should focus our attention on studying this K3 distortion mode. And how do we study this mode? Actually, it turns out that's quite simple. All you have to do is to choose the correct diffraction peaks and just look at them. And actually, you have both strain information and that distortion information in here. We know if you look at the peak position, you know the indices. In other words, that is constant for the strain. And as we talked about a moment ago, this distortion, K3 distortion, actually makes the unit cell larger. So at some point, this peak should go away. So that peak intensity is actually a representative of the main amplitude of this distortion. So we are all basically set up. We know what to measure. We know how to measure, and we also know how to explain the effect. So just have to go ahead and do it. So we shoot the laser and measure that before and after. Measure the diffraction peak before and after. So this is normal diffraction peaks. The two dimension is basically this is outline dimension, this is in-plane dimension. This is the diffraction after the laser pulse. And you can see that there's a shift along this outline diffraction dimension and not much along the in-plane dimension. Just to make it more clear, we can integrate this two-dimensional figure into lines. And this is the in-plane, so there is really no shift at all. And that's all of that. You can see it's a significant shift, meaning that we did generate a strain along one direction while keeping the in-plane that is constant locked. Okay. So once we have this, remember I said I have two pulses, so I can change the pulse delay, so I can basically watch the decay of the strain that is constant and the distortion itself. So here is basically the decay, the time dependence. So this is right after the laser pulse. Then we just look at them as a function of time. And A actually basically does not change very much. And C starts with a big number and it goes down. And in our case, it's about 0.5% the maximum we got. And at the same time, if you look at the intensity ratio or the distortion magnitude, it also tracks the strain itself. So it's interesting. At least if we are correlated so well, so they must be cause and effect, right? So it turns out it's quite important to understand this decay process. So to get from here to here, what happens? Our understanding or our initial proposal was, and this is actually the thermal conduction, right? So you have a photon that heats up the film, and the heat will go away. So it will go through the film itself and interface and goes to the substrate. Substrate really is like constant temperature heat reservoir. So to simulate this, you just have to write down the diffusion equation for film and for the interface. The only unknown parameter for here is the interface thermal conductivity. And we can use that as a fitting parameter, really to fit this using this model, our decay process. Really just one parameter, you can fit it really, really well. And there's no background subtraction there's no not like that. Okay, so it looks like this is thermal conduction. You explained this very well. And we actually went a little further to basically look at the thickness effect. You can imagine that if you have a big chunk of material, it cools much slower than a small piece of material, right? So it's a similar idea. If you have much thicker film, the time constant should be much larger. So basically double the size of the film, double the thickness of the film. You can see this decay becomes really, really slow. So notice that this is 5 nanoseconds, this is actually 30 nanoseconds. Okay, so once we understand this thermal process, we're ready to calculate basically the temperature in the restrained thermal expansion. Remember, in order to calculate the isothermal compressive strain, you have to know where the temperature is in this case. So according to what we just understood, so basically the thermal energy comes from the extra energy between band gap and photon energy. So you can calculate temperature basically just from how much photon energy you put in there. And once you have that, really the last thing before you calculate the strain effect is the reference or the control experiment, which is quite standard experiment. You just have to do the temperature dependence and measure the Lattice constant C, Lattice constant P minus A, and this temperature intensity of diffraction peaks. You can already see this is different from what we see a moment ago. But let's really compare. Now we can have temperature for both experiments, and we can put them in the same plot. And this is the isobaric thermal expansion. This is the restrained thermal expansion, and this is basically the amplitude of the structural distortion. And you can see a really big difference in between. So basically, we're ready to calculate the effect by looking at the difference. So here's basically the result. As I talked a moment ago, we basically are applying a compressive strain, and after you apply the strain, the distortion really increased by quite a lot. And so in other words, if you press along the axis, all of this rotation will become bigger. This buckling will also become bigger. Another thing I want to point out is this is some detail about this experiment, but it's quite interesting. So if you look at this diagram, we actually compare the properties here in the really elevated temperature part. So we not only measured the strain effect, we also measured the temperature dependence of the strain effect. That's almost like a product, byproduct. So you can see basically high temperature, the strain effect is actually slightly larger. Okay, so up to here, that's basically what we did experimentally. Of course, some more future work to do, but at that point we asked help from our deep theory collaborator. First thing, of course, is to confirm what we have observed. So indeed, this is a calculation. Actually, it's very consistent with the experimental result. So basically, epitaxial strain, when you compress it, you really do have a higher K3 distortion. And without much surprise that when you have higher distortion, the ferroelectricity also, the ferroelectric dipole moment is also intense. So which is this curve similar to this. But there's a little interesting detour here. The magnetic dipole moment actually is reduced a little bit. So this has to do with not only the canting itself, but also has to do with the distance between iron-iron atoms. So that's some biophysics there. So to conclude, basically we use this restrained thermal expansion method, and we're able to extract the strain effect on this lutetium iron oxide hexagonal phase, and found that, more specifically, found that compressive strain can enhance Lattice distortion and enhance ferroelectricity, but actually reduce the magnetic moment a little bit. But we think this method, actually, you can see that it doesn't really require very perfect epitaxy, so it can be really, it can have broad application to other materials. And of course, we can also extend this to study not only the K3 mode, but other properties like electronic and magnetic properties. So with that, I'll thank you for your attention. I'll be glad to take questions.
I think it's time for question.
So how do you know M is reduced?
This is from calculation.
Calculation,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
experimentally you don't.
We haven't done